What made you realize that some people's love comes with a price tag? My parents required me to injure myself once a month and document it with photos to build character through suffering. My father was former military who lost 3 fingers in combat and believed that pain was the only teacher worth having. He kept his severed fingers in a jar on the mantle and would hold them during family meetings while explaining how each loss had made him stronger. My mother was a former trauma nurse who photographed every injury that came through her emergency room and studied them at home. On my 10th birthday, instead of the bike I'd begged for, they presented me with a leather-bound album and a set of medical instruments wrapped in sterile packaging. That night, they sat me down at the kitchen table where Mom had laid out bandages and antiseptic, while Dad opened his own childhood portfolio, showing photographs of him at various ages with increasingly severe injuries. The photos progressed from simple cuts to broken bones to something involving his left eye that made my stomach turn. They explained that I would add 1 entry per month to my portfolio and that each injury must be more significant than the last to show growth. When I asked what would happen if I refused, Dad simply said, "Then you're not our daughter anymore and we'll focus on someone who deserves our love." The first month I used a hammer on my pinky finger because I couldn't think of anything else, and they were disappointed by my lack of imagination. By the 6th month, I had moved on to second-degree burns using heated metal, which earned their approval. After the first year, they began inviting other portfolio families to our home, where children would compare scars while parents discussed optimal healing times and which injuries left the most educational marks. During these gatherings, I watched a girl my age remove her glass eye while her parents beamed with pride. By the 2nd year, the monthly ritual had evolved into elaborate ceremonies where both parents would assist to ensure proper technique and maximum damage. They taught me how to break bones cleanly and which burns would scar most prominently. I learned to stitch my own wounds because Mom said medical attention diluted the lesson. The worst part was how they made me write essays about each injury, analyzing what I'd learned and how the pain had improved me. When my younger brother turned 10, I had to hold the camera while he completed his first portfolio entry, and I heard myself coaching him through it with the same words they'd used on me. After 3 years of escalating injuries, I was running out of ways to hurt myself that would satisfy their increasing demands. They'd started suggesting I might need to sacrifice something permanent soon, discussing which fingers I used least, or whether I really needed depth perception. The breaking point came when they laid out plans for my 16th birthday, which would involve what they called a transformation ceremony where I would remove something that couldn't grow back. That night, I locked myself in my room and refused to complete my monthly entry. For the first time in years, my body began healing without new wounds interrupting the process. I went to school without documenting my day, ate lunch without analyzing the experience of hunger, and even laughed at a movie without writing about what the joy taught me. For 2 weeks, I started believing I had broken free from their system and began making plans for a normal life. Then they revealed they had been documenting my defiance as a different kind of pain, photographing me through windows and recording my sleep patterns. They brought in my cousin who had just been accepted to medical school, and she showed me her portfolio, which included entries I couldn't look at without vomiting. When I still refused to resume my entries, they stopped feeding me and locked me in the basement with the portfolios of family members who had died during their transformations. My school counselor noticed my weight loss and the infected wounds on my arms that I could no longer properly treat without supplies. When Child Protective Services arrived, my parents presented years of documentation, including consent forms they'd had me sign and essays I'd written praising the process. The investigator was disturbed, but said that without proof of coercion, unusual parenting wasn't illegal. 3 other portfolio families came forward to testify about their children's success. The judge began explaining that while unusual, the family's documentation showed a consistent educational philosophy. My parents' lawyer was already drafting custody arrangements that included make-up portfolio entries for my months of defiance. I sat there calculating which finger I could lose and still write, accepting that I would never escape. That's when the courtroom doors opened and my grandfather appeared, though everyone believed he had died 20 years ago in what the family called a final transformation. He revealed he had escaped the family tradition and had been documenting our family's practice for decades, bringing photographs dating back to the 1890s, showing generations of mutilated children. He had evidence that those who refused either disappeared or died in suspicious circumstances. The judge's expression shifted when grandfather revealed the cemetery plot where rebellious family members were buried. I now live under a different name in a different state, and my scars require constant explanation.